This video contains flashing images. Flash. Flashing. Lights. I'm fucking with this music though.
In 1996, the person behind these photos, at just 19 years old, changed photography for an entire generation of people. And without really meaning to, helped ignite a movement that critics would spend years just trying to define. This is the story of how that happened. This is the story of Hero Mix.
Oh, shout out to Hero Mix.
Japan has a long history of photography, and women have always been an important part of that history. However, up until the 1990s, women appeared in the art form as the subject far more often than as the artist.
Ooh.
As a result, ideas of what it meant to be a young woman in Japan were most often framed through images made about women rather than by them. And this imbalance wasn't accidental. Japanese society, like many others, historically placed women within private and domestic roles, while the more public and professional side of things, including photography, were more accessible to men. Photography, therefore, frequently became a place where male ideas of femininity and youth were projected, while women's own perspectives struggled to find the same visibility or legitimacy. This, combined with serious gatekeeping by galleries and publications, meant that for decades, Japanese women's photographic voices remained almost entirely invisible.
Damn. Until
we would eventually start to see a shift in these perceptions in the 1990s. The rise of these public photo booths called Purikura, unaffordable point-and-shoot cameras, meant that photography left studios and galleries and started living in pockets and bedrooms.
That's banging. Damn, I didn't know they had that in the
Access alone
90s.
doesn't change culture. What mattered was what people chose to do with it. And in one case, a teenage girl took that new freedom seriously enough to turn it into something lasting. That girl was called Hiromi Toshikawa, better known today as Hero Mix. Hero Mix is a photographer who was born in 1976 in the Tokyo suburb of Suginami. When she was 19, she was nominated for Canon's New Cosmos of Photography Award.
Damn!
A cultural support project designed to showcase aspiring young photographers. Hero Mix entered a 36-page photo book titled 17 Girl Days. The entry itself was a collection of images exploring the everyday life of a Japanese teenager. They're photographed with a closeness that feels almost like someone thinking out loud with a camera. In regards to the competition, Hero Mix made this statement. The daily life of a 17-year-old high school student is full of danger. Radical days, passing days, a sadly pitiful world. Why is love painful? Rock is my life. I'm scared that I'm getting closer to becoming an adult. I live, reflecting upon myself.
Damn.
17 Girl Days won Hero Mix the grand prize.
Man, I used to take mad
She became
photos,
an
dog.
overnight sensation in Japan.
Nah, she was killing the game. These are banging photos, I'm not gonna lie. What was she taking these off of, man? This shit
Within a year
fire.
of her New Cosmos win, Hero Mix published Girls Blue, her first photo book. Later the same year, the magazine's Studio Voice dedicated a 50-page spread just to her, titled We Love Hero Mix.
Damn.
She followed that with more books like Japanese Beauty and Hikari, steadily building a body of work. She also wasn't just respected within photography. She exploded into Japan's collective cultural consciousness during a golden age of youth culture within the country. Harajuku fashion, Shibuya music, and magazines like Fruits, Cutie and Zipper all contributed to this explosion of individuality. And Hero Mix was deeply embedded in that world. Stylistically, she didn't stay confined to diary-esque personal images. She began working for magazines, photographing musicians, shooting fashion and portraits. Hero Mix even partly inspired the visual identity of Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation, a film that she would also briefly appear in twice.
Damn, I didn't know that. I fucking love that movie, man.
Hero Mix estimates that she took around 30,000 photos. That work was later distilled into her year 2000 photo book, Hero Mix Works, a retrospective that won her the prestigious Kimura Ihai Award. In response to Hero Mix's popularity, Japanese camera companies began to further develop their technology so that it was easier for everyone to use. Hero Mix made photography feel accessible to everyone, whilst also at the same time proving that everyday life is worthy of art. Alongside peers like Yuri Nagashima and Rinko Kawauchi, Hero Mix was placed at the centre of a movement that critics would later describe as Ononoko Shashin.
Early photography.
It's important to note that this name didn't come from the artists themselves. It came from the older, male-dominated photo establishment, trying to put this new generation's aesthetics and ideas into a neat little box.
Yeah, but it doesn't make fucking sense. What would you consider something that's not early photography? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You shoot it in a different way? Like, yeah, you can, if I take a photo of this mountain, you know, it's a photo, but if she takes this, like, what are you talking about, dog? It's like
made photography about the interior world of women. The exact thing the previous
doesn't make any sense, bro. It doesn't fucking matter who takes the photo. It's the photo, dog. Look at the photo. Motherfucker, you looking at the photo?
Photographer's work on Ononoko
seems like you're looking at who's taking it.
It's really an attempt to separate it from the wider photography world. Crucially,
why wouldn't you though, bro? Why wouldn't you take photos of
Ononoko Shashin
every area of like
Nakashima said that she found it
what you could explore? You see what I'm saying?
Never identified with it at all. And it's in that rejection.
Like, how fucking boring is it that you'd have to set up a whole fucking thing in order to take a photo of something that you have like crazy intent to photograph, you know what I mean?
Her work marked the point where women started defining their own visual language within Japanese art. It changed who Japanese photography belonged to, and you can see its fingerprints in entire generations of photographers that follow.
Damn. Shout out Heromix, man. Is that it? Now we got more to the vid.
Hero Mix is often remembered online as the girl who took the first selfie. And honestly, that's how I first heard about her too. But the more I dug into her work, the more it becomes obvious that her legacy is so much bigger than that simple piece of trivia. Look, I am obviously not a teenage girl in 1990s Tokyo, and I would never claim to fully understand what that experience felt like just because I've looked at Hero Mix's photographs. But I don't think you need that perspective to recognise what Hero Mix has given us. She documented her world with honesty, uncertainty, and excitement, and she did it all on her own terms. It shouldn't feel rare to see a perspective actually coming from the person living it. But in Japan, for a long time it was. That's the world that Hero Mix pushed back against. She didn't fix the problem entirely, but she carved out room for others to follow, and that's what really mattered. So thank you, Hero Mix, for making our world a slightly better place.
Damn. Shout out to Lona too. This shit banging, man. I fuck with
Thank you so much
it.
for watching. If you want to subscribe and leave something nice in the comments, that'd be really cool. Give it a like, maybe. Also, my Instagram and my Patreon are going to be down below, so go give them a follow if you can. Yeah, Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, bro.
See you in the next one.
Hey, that was a banger fucking video. Shout out to Heromix. Shouts out to Heromix. I never seen her shit before. That shit look beautiful. There's no fucking boundaries to anything with that, man. It's how you feel, man. You do what you want. I never understood that shit when people would like look at paintings and photos or even music. Well, sometimes music, but you could kind of dissect it. But I never understood people being like, man, this shit sucks. Like, yeah, you can find a song that you don't like, then that's bad. But you could always, like, you could sample anything out of anything. I swear. Like, you can just morph it. So just looking at it completely negative, I think is the opposite way of how you should do it. And then I think it also brings more often than not a negative connotation to any form of art when you overly critique it, when you try to get super in depth. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you should look at something and not have an opinion on it, but I'm saying if you're sitting here trying to like have a fucking grand view that people would think like, yeah, I think you're just at a certain point it boils down to you having to find something to point out, and more often than not it's a flaw. And if you convince somebody that it is a flaw, they're not gonna be able to not see it, and then they're gonna give you the credit for that, right? As opposed to just being like, this right here, I like it in general, and I like this part about it. People would just be like, oh yeah, that's true, it's a good thing. You know what I mean? Nobody's gonna think you're thinking outside the, you know what I mean? Everybody wants to be direct and different, and it leads to, you know, more often than not negative in terms of critiquing art. And I don't know, I see that a lot in people like, you know, people like the people that I used to look up to. Like, man, I'd see that in like Kanye and Tarantino, and it'd be like, man, you can't just be at ease with it, man. You can't just be at peace with it. Like, look at it for what good it's done, man. But yeah, shout out to them. Shout out to everybody.
When it was time to add